Whom bomb?
We bomb them.
Whom bomb?
We bomb them.
Whom bomb?
We bomb them.
Whom bomb?
We bomb.
We bomb.
We bomb them.
Bomb, bomb, bomb.
At 15, I decided to do my history project on nuclear testing in the Marshall Islands. Time to learn my own history.
I read through books.
After articles.
After website.
All on how the U.S. military once used
My island home.
For nuclear testing.
Trinity. July 1945.
After 3 years of research and experimentation, the world's first nuclear device, the Gadget, was successfully detonated in the New Mexico desert.
Robert Oppenheimer, the director of the Los Alamos Laboratory during the Manhattan Project, called the site Trinity and listened to a John Donne sonnet.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Batter my heart through your Christian God, for you as yet but not.
Breathe.
Shine and seek to mend.
That I may rise and stand.
Overthrow me.
And bend.
You were forced to break.
Blow.
Burn.
And make me new.
And so began the nuclear age.
Sadie Murphy, senior.
Maisha Rahman, junior.
Lauren Gardequois, sophomore.
Tessa Murphy, freshman.
Callie Fielding, freshman.
History project.
A collage of poems, articles, and first-hand accounts of nuclear power and destruction. From sources such as Black Rain, the Firecracker Boys, Eden Our Shadow, CNBC, General Empire, and the Global Policy Forum.
As well as the poems Whom Bomb by Allen Ginsberg, History Project by Kathy Jetno Kitchener, and Atomic Pensione by Peter Newing.
What do we do?
Who do we bomb?
What do we do?
Who do we bomb?
What do we do?
Who do we bomb?
In a chain reaction, the neutrons release.
Well, other nuclears release more neutrons.
The neutrons release, blow up in some others, release more neutrons.
And start this all over.
At 8:15 a.m., August 6, 1945, Paul Tibbets, United States Colonel, dropped a little boy, the first atomic weapon used in warfare on Hiroshima, Japan. 70,000 people were instantly murdered.
We made an extremely steep turn towards which distance to ourselves an explosion. We turned around to look and saw this boiling cloud of dust and debris.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Hiroshima.
It was really shaped more like a jellyfish than a mushroom.
It seemed to have more vitality than any animal.
Its head changed color as it sprawled out slowly towards the southeast.
Writhing and raging as though it might hurl itself on our heads at any moment.
It wasn't Edward the devil himself.
Who else in the whole wide world would presume to summon forth
Such a
monstrosity?
3 days later, while the Emperor of Japan was casting the deciding vote to surrender to the Allies, the United States dropped Fat Man on the city of Nagasaki. 45,000 people were instantly murdered.
After the war, the atomic weapon spread into what has become known as the Nuclear Club. The Nuclear Club consists of those countries that are declared nuclear states.
Russia.
The United Kingdom.
France,
China.
Israel,
India.
Pakistan.
North Korea.
The first
First
angel
angel
sounded,
sounded,
and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood.
Some were still bleeding, but they seemed to have no energy to do anything about it.
And the second angel
Angel
sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood.
The people who walked with their eyes shut, swaying to and fro as they were pushed by the crowd.
A woman, leading a child by the hand, realized that the child was not hers, shook her hand free with a cry, and ran off. And the child, a boy of 6 or 7, running, crying after her.
A young woman who came along almost naked, with a naked baby, its face entirely covered with blood.
And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed.
After the war, the United States decided to test nuclear weapons in
The Marshall Islands.
There's only 90,000 people out there. Who gives a damn?
The U.S. military once used my island home.
For nuclear testing.
I read first-hand accounts of what we call
Jellyfish babies. Tiny beans.
With no bones.
Skin, red tomatoes.
The miscarriage was gone unspoken.
The broken translations.
I never told my husband.
I thought it was my fault.
God will thank you, they told us.
Between 1946 and 1958, the United States tested 67 nuclear weapons in the Marshall Islands.
The largest being a 15-megaton hydrogen bomb called Bravo. Bravo radiated islanders on Rongelap, 200 miles away.
No sound, just a flash and then a force, the shockwave. As if you were under a glass bowl and someone poured blood over it.
Blood over it.
Blood over it.
Everything turned red. The sky, the ocean, the fish, my grandfather's net.
People in Rongelap nowadays claim they saw the sun rising from the west.
I saw the sun rising from the middle of the sky.
We lived in thatch house at the time. My grandfather and I had our own thatch house, and every gecko and animal that lived in the thatch fell dead. Not more than a couple of days after.
The military came in, sent boats ashore to run us through Geiger counters and other stuff. Everybody in the village was required to go through that.
The people of Bikini and Rongelap have not been able to return home.
After Castle Bravo, the U.S. thought it had won the global arms race.
It had not.
In a chain reaction,
The neutrons release.
Blow other nuclei.
Release more
The
neutrons.
neutrons release.
Blow its mothers.
Release more
And
neutrons.
start this all over. The neutrons release.
Blow other nuclei.
Release more
The
neutrons.
neutrons release.
slow other nuclei.
Release more neutrons. Less than a decade after Castle Bravo, the Soviet Union responded with an even larger test. Tsar Bomba.
The Soviet test had a blast radius of 58 megatons, nearly 4,000 times larger than Hiroshima, and the shockwave broke window panes 560 miles away.
Kazakhstan.
Today, villagers living around the Seme have traumatic memories of mushroom clouds exploding on the horizon during their childhood.
We'd be sent outside and we'd crouch in ditches. We saw mushroom clouds, big and terrifying ones.
I was small at the time, but I remember it well.
The military people took us to the middle of the steppe, gave us a tent, food and music, and told us to enjoy the picnic.
Suddenly, the sky turned red, and a big red storm gathered above our village. We lost our minds.
Men were taken back to their villages and families, but were under constant medical observation by doctors.
Not long after the exposure, some died from unknown illnesses. Some lived for several years, but then developed radiation-related illnesses.
I'm surprised I've lived so long.
715 nuclear tests were performed by the Soviet Union. 456 of those were around Seme in Kazakhstan.
Tsar Bomba shook the planet and woke the world to the madness of the arms race. Within 2 years of the test, the U.S. and the Soviet Union, along with 120 other countries, had signed the Partial Test Ban Treaty, banning nuclear tests in the atmosphere, underwater, or outer space.
In a chain reaction,
The neutrons released.
Blow other nuclei.
Release more
The
neutrons.
neutrons released.
Blow its mothers.
Release more neutrons.
And start this all over.
what do we do?
You bomb them.
What do we do?
You bomb them.
What do we do?
We bomb them.
President Trump said in a meeting with top national security and homeland security officials,
Hurricanes! I got it. Why don't we nuke them? They start forming off the coast of Africa. As they're moving across the Atlantic, we drop a bomb inside the eye of the hurricane, and it disrupts it. Climate change solved.
He likes big bombs and he cannot lie. You other countries can't deny. When a villain walks in and he doesn't know his face, he gets a nuke right in his face. He gets bombed. Who do we bomb? We bomb them. Alaska. Amchitka Island does not resemble a place that absorbed
17 miles long.
3 miles wide.
And carpeted with green tundra.
a nuclear explosion 385 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
30 years ago, this uninhabited island in the Aleutians was the site of 3 underground nuclear blasts.
Today, researchers are trying to figure out how the nuclear tests are affecting Alaska.
In 1965, the Department of Defense drilled a deep hole in the island and set off an 80-kiloton nuclear blast underground.
4 years later, the Atomic Energy Commission again used Amchitka. Workers drilled a 4,000-foot hole and detonated the second explosion underneath Amchitka.
Project Canigan, nicknamed
Big Daddy!
came in 1971.
A 5-megaton explosion.
On November 6th, researchers for the Atomic Energy Commission detonated the warhead underground about 1 mile beneath Amchitka.
In reaction to the blast, the ground surface rose and fell 20 feet. Within 2 days after the explosion, a crater more than 1 mile wide and 40 feet deep formed.
In 1958, the government wanted to nuke Alaska. Project Chariot was proposed by physicist Edward
The
Teller.
intent was to use 6 hydrogen bombs to create a deep water harbor near Cape Thompson.
The atom's mighty power will make child's play of colossal earth-moving
To
feats.
dig harbors,
Dredge channels.
And builds great canals.
Subterranean atomic bombs will drive electric power plants.
Underground reservoirs dug with nuclear bombs will make deserts bloom.
the Point Hope Village Health Council wrote to President John Kennedy,
Such a detonation would be too close to our hunting and fishing areas. We read about the cumulative and retained isotope burden in man that must be considered. We also know about strontium-90, how it might harm people if too much of it gets into our body. We are deeply concerned about the health of our people now and for the future that is coming.
The Single Integrated Operational Plan, SIOP,
was the most outrageous document in human history.
If our first solar system had alerted a Soviet strike, would have delivered 3,200 nuclear weapons to 1,060 targets.
In the Soviet Union,
China?
and allied countries in Asia and Europe.
The U.S. had an automated response system with data coming in about possible missile
However, it is still left to civilians to make the major decision to destroy the world.
usually with just a few minutes to make that decision.
To launch a nuclear war is essentially the hands of the president.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un just stated that the nuclear button is on his desk at all times. Will someone from his depleted food-starved regime, please inform him that I too have a nuclear button, but it is a much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works.
Bomb, 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 bomberin'. Bomb, 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 bomb,
Let's bomb Iran.
Let's take a stand. Bomberin'. Our country's got a feeling it's really hit the ceiling. Bomberin'.
By 1986, more than 70,000 nuclear warheads were stockpiled worldwide.
The pattern of proliferation changed in 1987 when U.S. President Ronald Reagan and Soviet Prime Minister Mikhail Gorbachev
Signed the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces (INF) Treaty.
It marked a turning point in their arms race.
Some say it saved the world, but on February 1st, 2019, the INF Treaty expired when President Donald Trump formally withdrew the U.S. from the agreement.
Why bomb?
We don't want to bomb?
Why bomb?
You don't want to bomb?
Who said bomb?
Who said we had to bomb? Who said bomb?
Who said we had to bomb?
Who said bomb?
Who said we had to bomb?
The mysterious explosion on August 8th killed 5 scientists and sparked fears that Russia had tested its new nuclear-powered Vyrovestik missile, also known as Skyfall.
Because the sun's force
With plutonium trigger
has
placed in our minds.
we are dying to use
With
it.
plutonium trigger.
Carlton Titan.
We are dying to use it.
Torching our
We
enemies.
sing to Jesus.
Blind to the end,
Lit up like nuclei.
We sing to Jesus.
in a chain reaction.
So I finished my project. Graph my people's death by cancer and canned food diabetes.
On flowcharts in 3D.
Glue stick my ancestor's voice onto a poster board I bought from Office Max.
Staple tables screaming the millions of dollars stuffed into our mouths.
Generation after generation after generation
After generation. And at the top, I spray painted and bold stenciled yellow.
For the good of mankind. And entered into the school district-wide competition called History Day.
My parents were quietly proud of me, so was my teacher.
And when the 3 balding mud judges finally came around to my project, one of them looked at it and said,
Yeah, but it wasn't really for the good of mankind, though, was it?
And I lost.
Armageddon did the job.
Gog Magog, Gog Magog,
Gog Magog, Gog Magog, Gog Magog, Gog Magog.
Armageddon did the job.